Hi everybody, it's me, Jessica Lahore, and we're back with another Jess Talk. And this week we are talking all about routines, consistency. What does it mean? Well, before we get into this episode and you find out, make sure that you subscribe to my channel, you've hit the bell for notifications so that you're not missing out on my podcast. We're streaming on all platforms, but don't miss out. Come on, get on this bandwagon already. Become a little Lahore. All right, routines. Let's get into it.
Attention Lahore. Attention Lahore. Attention Lahore. Attention. Here I am walking down the street, seeing all the boys trying to take a peek. Shorts pulled up and chest out right. Come on, boys, just take a bite. Look but don't touch, spin it round and round. Crazy topsy-turvy.
Oh my gosh, so routines, I feel like as I have grown older, have become more important, but they have always been part of my life. And I mean, these are routines from how I wake up in the morning and like my process of getting ready for the day. These are routines for how I get ready for the show. This is routines for how I run my business, how I host a show. I think that having routines is really important, especially like, you know, the phrase, if the wheel's not broke, why reinvent it? Like, that is what it is. And I think that sometimes you can get a little complacent in your routines, and they're not necessarily benefiting you in the best way. And I think that sometimes you need to realize when your routines need to change, when they need to alter, and how do you handle that? Because for someone like me, I struggle with change, period. And that's with like decisions around my house, that's like life decisions. Like if I know it to be a certain way, I struggle with the idea that things can change. And change and routine come kind of hand in hand because one is a consequence of the other. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad, doesn't mean that it's necessarily good. It's all about how you handle it and how you take it as it comes. So I would say that I've gotten into some pretty steady routines, and I left this topic pretty open because when I was like, oh, we'll just keep it business routines, that's it, that's all, just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough of like what I wanted to talk about because routine plays so many different roles in my life. So routines, things that I always do, and I know that some of this might sound really silly, but it works for me. Every morning I wake up, the first thing I do, and it never lies, 6:30 to 6:45 a.m. every single morning, I'm in the bathroom taking my first shit of the day. And if I don't take that, I know it sounds super silly, if I don't take that for the day, my whole rest of the day seems thrown off, whether I didn't have to or I'm just bloated and I'm backed up, whatever it is. It really changes the course of the rest of the day. If I'm going to work out harder at the gym, is it because I'm having an upset stomach and it's going to be consistent like the whole rest of the day? I mean, it's also if I go more than once in the morning, same thing. It breaks my routine. I go one time, I sit down for 20 minutes, and I come out feeling way better about myself for the day. And if you're not regular, you really should. It'll change your whole life being consistent like that. And that's just an easy example. From there, I always grab the same things. I always do the same routines of like, this is my schedule. This is what I keep. I go to the gym for this amount of time. When I come home, I always spend an hour cleaning the house. When I come home, then I always spend an hour doing office work. And so like I schedule out myself. Routine and scheduling will be said interchangeably throughout this Jess Talk because it's so true. My schedule and my routines matter to me. How often am I meeting with my team? Business-wise, how often am I promoting the shows? Every Monday is designated for advertising the shows for the week. Every single Monday. And if I don't do it on Monday, I find that I'm ending up doing it Thursday, the day before the show start, or the day of even. And that routine matters. Consistency matters. If I miss that day to promote my events on Monday, it throws off the whole week. If I don't collect music at a certain day, then it throws off when I set the time aside to put the set list together and put all the show information together. And yes, of course, I'm human. I mess up, but I've noticed a shift. If I get up for the day, like today, I feel so off in this moment today. And a lot of it is because of how I woke up. I woke up feeling off of my game. Like it was not how I normally wake up. And it's kind of got me in my head. I have not taken my vitamins. I take my vitamins every single day before I go to the gym. And I didn't do that today. And I take a giant handful of them. That could be a whole different JESS talk because I probably take an unhealthy amount of vitamins, but until next time. And so things like this matter. And I keep jumping between personal and professional routines. And I want to go back to personal routines. So I get up, I take my shit. I make sure to take my vitamins. I grab the essentials that I need for the gym. And if I don't grab them, I get really frustrated when I get to the gym. Is it leg day and I need to wear flat shoes? Do I have my knee guards? Do I have my gloves? Do I have my pre-workout? Do I have my belt? Am I wearing clothes that make me feel comfortable to go to the gym? Like today was my first day back wearing leggings because it was cold, and even that small change kind of threw me off because I'm just used to doing things differently. But it matters. So those things that I make sure I check off my list, because if I get to the gym and I don't have them, my workout isn't ruined, but it's altered the way that I would like it to be. If I don't keep up with the house, or if I don't keep up with small amounts, I've found that when I get overwhelmed, it's because so many things need to happen, and it's because I broke my routine. I didn't spend that 30 to 40 minutes picking up some dishes or making the bed or putting a load of laundry in or something like that. And now I'm 3 days later, and I didn't do it 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 days in that week, and it's a fucking chaotic mess in my house. Laundry's piled up, and then I have to spend more time doing it, or the house looks even more dirty, which gives me anxiety when things aren't together. It's the same thing with my drag lab. Personally, I have schedules. Like if every Monday, the drag lab gets cleaned every morning. I did it for 9 years, 9.5 years, because I still do it now. But my assistant does it now, and every Monday. And I go down and I check to make sure everything is in its spot, because that's part of the routine. If she puts something in a different spot than it normally goes, when I go to pack for the show that day, it's off. My timing's off. And that's also a problem because I'm one of those people that it has a lot of conflict with timing and time management. I'm really great at time management, and I'm also really poor at time management. I'm really great at selecting chunks of time to make sure that I'm mentally prepared that this is my routine for the day. Every night before I go to bed, I look at the next day. What do I need to do? What do I need to check off on my schedule, my to-do list, and things like that? And if it's not appropriately done, then it really messes everything up. I feel like I keep resulting that. That's the end goal. If you don't stick with it, it messes everything up. That's what I'm trying to get across. That's the whole fucking point of a routine. And so I've found that, going back to personal things, if I don't schedule out time to be with myself or to sit down on my computer and do office work, emails build up. If I don't answer a couple of texts in a day, then it builds up and I get overwhelmed. Seeing numbers grow like that freak me out, and then I don't want to do them. I almost shut down, and then I'm even more behind. And that's the same thing with routine and conversation, routine with communication. Routine can be thrown around in so many ways. If I'm not consistently in my routine as a human expressing my communication style to the best of my ability, all of the things that I chose not to because I broke my routine of not speaking up build up in my head. They boil, sometimes they get overwhelming, I shut down, they explode out, and that's with emotions. That's with how you interact with people. Most of the time, I believe that people react negatively or intensely towards another human when something is off about part of their day or part of their experience. Like, it's not normalized as to how they would perceive the day to go or that conversation go, and that's why they're acting out. I'm more mindful of this. Not everybody is this aware. I think making sure that you are mindful and aware of the people, your mind, your body, what works for you is part of routine. You can't just force somebody to make a routine because it works for you or you think that they should. You can't force anybody to do that. And sometimes forcing that push onto someone makes it worse. It makes it entirely worse. They have to develop it and come up with it themselves. Gym these days, this time, a therapy this time, every week, our meeting every week, this time. And if things adjust and they change, great, it happens. But that's part of consistency, part of routine. It really helps to manage your time in the best ways. And unfortunately, I'm also a multitasker. So not only am I taking a shit in the morning, but I'm also responding to a bunch of emails and putting out my first social media post sometimes for the day, or responding to comments or emails. And if I don't do that, if I don't shit, then I don't do that, and both get behind. I'm a creature of habit while also liking spontaneity and excitement and change of pace, but I feel like I'm still behind the planning of making sure that it's scheduled in my head that this is going to happen. I really struggle. I'm really good with routine in my words, and I say that I feel like I'm jumping all around of just different examples of how I use routine, but the way that I communicate with customer service agents, the way that I communicate with my student loan reps, is the way that I manage large purchase conversations, is that I am very meticulous about making sure in my routine I ask so many questions very specifically. You cannot misinterpret this question. And the routine part comes in that if I expect this outcome to happen because I went through my steps to make sure that I mentally was ready for this decision. And at the end of it, it doesn't work out that way, or you tell me something is wrong, or you almost gaslight me. That's why I've started recording my meetings, starting recording conversations, making sure it's written down, because then I go crazy, and I go crazy spending the time thinking about what that conversation was like. But I know in my routine, I always ask these questions. I always am very specific about the way I communicate with people, and like what I would like out of things. When it comes to my drag business, we talked about it a little bit. Mondays are promotion days. Sometimes it goes on to Tuesday, but every Monday, Monday is promotion day. Every Monday is drag club, cleaning day. Every promotion gets 4 advertisements online, one on Facebook, one on Instagram, one on my calendar, which is pinned, and then you do it the week of, the day of, the month of, so 3 times, unless it's a big event or they've requested more promotion or they're paying for it. But routines like that help make sure that your business is perceived as reliable and consistent. I talk about time management, but I show up, I know exactly how much time everything takes me in the mornings. So when I do brunch every Saturday and Sunday, I know I need to leave by 9:55. If I am not out the door by 9:55, I am going to show up way too late to brunch. Then I'm going to take too much time to get ready. Then the show gets behind, and then that comes out of me. Not because I'm pissed at the people that are around me, I'm pissed at myself. And part of my routine is that I get up at this time, I take my poop, I pack my things, I lay out everything, and then I get to the gig. I am there by 10:14 to 10:16 every weekend. If I'm there earlier, amazing. If I'm there later, it really frustrates me. I come in all flustered, and I don't want to hug anybody. I just want to get ready to get the show started, and then I hug everybody. But that can change my whole day. Same thing with makeup routines. I love changing my makeup routine up, but that's also risk, because if you change something and it doesn't work, or like today, I had to completely wipe off my eyebrows and start over and do a new set because it just wasn't working the way I wanted to. I wanted to try something different, and it wasn't the day to do that. And it threw off. That could be part of the additional as to why I'm feeling overwhelmed today, because it just didn't work out the way I want. I'm happy with my makeup now, but in that moment, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I lost 20 to 30 minutes trying to draw these brows on, erasing them, starting over, and taking a minute to take a deep breath, because if you do anything flustered in makeup, it never turns out great. Makes it worse. So that's from driving times, knowing how far routine and distance it takes me to get from point A to point B. How long am I going to spend on my makeup that day? How long is it going to take me to pack? Those all factor into like my brain order of operation. Routine is order of operation as well. A lot of different topics that we're talking about with this. If you know that a piece of your routine needs to be altered or fixed, but you're not good with change, or you're unsure of how you're going to integrate a new step, you have to do it and just kind of suffer through it. You shouldn't be suffering, but push yourself through it for at least 2 weeks. Every time you said you're going to do it, you do it. And then that becomes part of your normalization. They say if you repeat a phrase or a word or a phone number 7 times to a human, they'll remember it and it'll be ingrained into their head because they have repeated it. Repetition helps with routine. It is routine. I don't know how many times I said routine. I feel like this should be a drinking game at this point. Every time I say routine, take a sip. But it takes me a while, and some changes are easier than others. I'm struggling with this right now that I'm now spent a year and a half technically living on my own, and now I'm integrating my life with another human. And the routines that I have for how I start the day or how I function in my living space have had to change to compromise and accommodate that there's another human that also needs routine and also needs structure. And change needs to happen. We need to change the rooms so that they are more integrated and that we're like both existing in this space. But change for me is very difficult and I shut down from it because my routine is I see this space every day. I know where things are placed. I know what I'm looking at. And when I come back and things are off, I know. When things are moved, I know. When things are not in the place that I left them, I know. All of these different pieces have made me how do I nicely say this? They have made me I don't want to say bitch. That's not nice. I have a really hard time when it's not my way. It's made me kind of a brat.
Oh, that sounded really bratty.
It makes me a brat, or as I like to say, I have my diva moments. That could be a whole different Jess talk, is diva moments, is what I call them. It's like the respectful way of saying, wow, you were kind of a child and a brat in that moment. And sometimes I just can't control it because that's so of what I'm used to. Part of it is the recognizing it and fixing it, but when you've lived on your own for so long, or if you've done things a certain way, or if somebody's brand new and you just know what works, it's really hard to open your mind to change in your routine or how you do it. And that's one of the things that I love and hate about co-hosting. I have a routine of how I run my shows. I know how I start shows. I know what things need to be said, in what order I think that they best need to be said, how they're spread out around the show, what jokes I use in my arsenal, what ones are new, what are off the cuff, what do I know that I'm going to say and set the audience up for. And when I'm with a co-host, you just never know. If you're both on a microphone especially, you never know how that's going to change. And part of that's great because I don't like to be robotic necessarily. I don't like to just sit there and go through my script without small changes that make it different. But I also know how to go on autopilot and just say what needs to be said and act the way that needs to be acted. And when I'm with a co-host, that can be completely changed up. And so that's why I love switching the roles. When I'm invited to be a co-host for somebody else, I have to follow their rules. And I kind of love it. And I don't have to follow their rules. That's not what I mean. I mean that they're in charge of the show. Their routine is what they know best for their environment and their experience. And I'm enhancing, following, and they're the guide for me, and as well as I'm an entertainment factor for everybody else. But when it's the opposite way around, and because I'm behind the mic and I'm leading, the lead host is what I would call it most of the time, it's the way that I want to run it. And sometimes I get stale. That's why it's really hard to balance, like when I want to leave a show and have somebody fill in for me that day. Sometimes breaking it up is sanity for everybody. But I'm making the choice in my routine to be somewhere else. Routine in the shower. Do you have a way that you shower the same way every time? Where you start, how you end? Yeah, and if I don't do it that way, or there have been times that I may have gotten stoned or just wasn't thinking clearly, I wasn't high, it doesn't matter, and I would walk out of the shower and I'd have conditioner in my hair. Or I'd walk out of the shower and be like, I didn't wash my body at all. I just did my face and my hair. And you're like, why? Like, what caused, I do this every day. What caused me to do it that way? Or the same way that you brush your teeth. Try just doing it in a different order, and it just doesn't feel right. It's so weird. And so when those moments happen, I'm like, what caused me, for whatever reason, possessed me to not do the way that I do things every time. I do them every time. The way I put products on my face every time. It really can just get your gander, tell you what. And I do even routines in drag numbers. I'd say a lot of my Jessica Classic numbers are choreographed, which is a routine, to how I move when I'm making a comedic effect, when I'm using a prop, when I'm dancing a certain way, all of those play into routine. And if I go into a song and if I were not clear in my mind or if I'm not there, you can tell if you've seen a classic Jessica number more than once when something's not right, because I pretty much keep it consistent, and that's something I like about my drag. I really, really grasp onto routine more as an adult, and I've been okay with routine being part of my life and being vocal about that. I feel like sometimes there's shame, maybe not shame, but embarrassment to tell people that this is the way makes sense, and other people are flexible. I really work on being flexible, sometimes not so much. Every part of what I do, for the most part, is routined out. It's to make my mind feel at peace and comfortable. If you're an overthinker and an overprocessor, it helps you not overthink and overprocess, because you just know what you're supposed to do, and you're not thinking about this way or that way or what this could mean, or you're just like, this is how we do it. This is how it goes. I think convincing other people is impossible. I think that you can promote the way that you function as a human, and that's great. But I don't think you can influence anybody to truly change if they don't want to add, change, or adjust what they're doing day to day. I don't think that's possible. I think you can influence, and I guess you can help people come to their own interpretation of something that they're inspired by from you. But I don't think that you can truly force people or impact people to make shifts in their life if they don't want to. You can't. As somebody who is, I would say, bad habit or a bad thing in my routine is because I schedule everything out. I want to utilize every minute of whatever I'm doing for whatever section, and that puts me behind. I'm always late, and I don't like being late. I never was that person. I was always early. I was always on time. On time was 15 minutes. I lived in Fort Collins. I was always the first one in the dressing room. And then things kind of shifted. I don't know if it's because I have slumped into the realization that it's not as big of a deal, but then I'm like conflicted because it's not a big of a deal for me, but it is. It affects the whole day. It affects other people's time. It's not something that I am proud of, but I waste. I shouldn't say waste. I dick around. Oh, I need to go start my makeup at 2:00. But wait, 1:30 comes around. I'm like,
I could switch laundry really quick.
Great, I can switch laundry. And then,
well, I gotta eat.
So that's 1:50. But then I'm like,
oh shit, I still need to pack.
And then it's 2:05. And I should have started 5 minutes ago. But then I decided to change a number. But then I said, you know what? I feel really gross. I need to shower first. Oh, but I have to shave. Now it's 2:45. And then I'm like, shit, I'm 45 minutes behind when I wanted to get started. And it's because I dick around. Because in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I know I can do it in this amount of time.
You think you have more time than you actually do.
Yeah. And that's because I'm somebody that craves having more time in a day. I think that time could be an entirely different Jess talk as well. It's a prominent impact on my life. But I keep using all these words interchangeably, but routine is influenced by time. Routine is influenced by change. Routine is influenced by consistency and dedication. Routine is altered by selecting what really needs to be in routine in your life and what really doesn't need to be as structured. Sometimes if you overstructure your life, it gets to a place where you have no time to do anything but then what you're supposed to be doing. Dicking around is my worst routine habit, and I hate it. And I really work on it. It's hard not to focus on the fact of like beating yourself up for breaking your routine. allowing yourself some grace and some understanding, and that you're human just trying to do the best that you can. I think it's impossible to expect perfection, or that all of your routine steps are gonna work out or work out the way you thought, or even happen. And so I think with routine, you have to have some grace in yourself, but you have to have flexibility and understanding. And if you're a type A person where everything is, this is how it is, it may not make you the most approachable. And I've learned that the hard way. And so I think having a balance of saying, I can be this way, and I can make sure that my life is helping me to put my mind at ease, because I know what is expected of me for the day, but also that it's okay if things don't work out. I'm really hard on myself. I beat myself up over being late to our sessions. I beat myself up for coming in to a dressing room with not a bad attitude, but a very focused attitude of, I need to get ready, I need to start the show, and I will say hello to everybody after, when I should reverse that and say hello to everybody, apologize for being late, and then get ready. But in my head, I'm like, I'm much more calm once I get this done. And I'm still working on it every day. I've gotten to a place of, some of these things are like, if you know me, this is who I am, and I don't need to change for anybody just because you don't like it. And I also am very conscious and aware of the things that can improve in my current steps. I think I get in my head a lot because I'm a structured person, that I'm not a fun person, or that people don't like being around me, and that's not the case. You can be a type A, structured, routine-esque person, and the people that know you will gravitate towards that as well. You should never beat yourself up for the honesty of changing a schedule or a routine or a date. Give yourself more grace. I'm saying these things out loud because a lot of it is a reminder for me. A lot of it is me saying this right now is accountability to see whenever this episode ends, and I can say, wow, I really hope that I have the same mindset, or maybe I've improved on my timeliness, or maybe I've lost a couple of friends, but I've gained a lot of other friends that kind of get me a little bit, and we mesh a little bit more. I don't know where things will be, but I'm constantly adapting to make my life easier on my mind, body, and soul. And routines help me with that calmness that I crave. Even in high stressful moments, I know what is happening, how it needs to work, and how I can best fulfill what needs to be done. And I admire that about myself. I think maturity and routine come in hand as well. I think that the more mature you are mentally, the more you realize what needs to get done. And I'd say that there's something that I could learn from somebody that's very go with the flow. They don't schedule anything. They don't have any plans for the day when they wake up. They don't have scheduled times where they need to be somewhere. I could learn a little bit about that to throw into my routine. A little bit of a go with the flow. I think that we can learn. I think I'm at a far end of the spectrum this way. I'd say I'm not all the way here. I'm like halfway. The middle's like that perfect balance of being able to be structured and coordinated and know what you need to do and what works best for you, while also having room, like you almost plan for fun, spontaneous, crazy, whatever it is. And then there's the opposite end. I don't think that you can survive, be successful, and thrive in life in any way if you don't have any of this. But I don't think that we're living our happiest if we don't have any of that. It's a very weird blend. A very weird blend of a spectrum that I think everyone's still discovering. And what that flow looks like for you. Tell me, what are some of the things in the comments that you need to do on a daily? Or what are some of the routines that keep you calm and centered? And how do you also adjust and balance your, not work-life balance, but your scheduled, I need to get shit done, and my fun, I want to live life every day kind of mindset? How do you do that? Tell me down below. And thanks for listening to this week's Jess Talk. Bye.
Attention.